She didn't even deny it. She just looked at her husband, a man who had literally broken his back to keep their family fed, and told him he was no longer worth the struggle. My patient Calvin sat right where you are now, recounting the moment his wife of 12 years packed a suitcase for a millionaire's beach wedding and never looked back. She thought she was trading up for a life of Ferraris and designer bags, leaving Calvin to rot in a mountain of medical debt and physical agony. But what she didn't know was that the very accident that shattered his spine was about to trigger a hidden $1.2 million legal battle that would turn his tragedy into the ultimate justice. If you've ever been treated like an inconvenience by the person who promised to love you forever, you need to hear why the most powerful thing you can do isn't getting revenge. It's refusing to break until the world finally makes things right. That was how Calvin described it to me. The moment everything in his life split into before and after. I've been a marriage counselor for 32 years. I've sat across from hundreds of couples, listened to thousands of hours of arguments, tears, and silences. I've learned that most marriages don't shatter from one big thing. They crack slowly, like ice on a frozen lake, until one day you step forward and the surface gives way. But every once in a while, I meet someone whose story stays with me, whose pain was so raw and so real that I still think about them years later sitting in my office, wondering if I could have said something different. This is one of those stories. His name was Calvin. He walked into my office on a rainy Tuesday afternoon, moving stiffly, one hand pressed against his lower back. He was 46 but looked a decade older. Dark circles under his eyes, clothes that were clean but worn thin. He sat down carefully, like he wasn't sure the chair would hold him. "I don't know if I need counseling or just someone to tell me I'm not crazy," he said. I told him he could start anywhere. For 12 years, I thought we had something solid, Mira and I. 12 years married, 2 kids, a little house in a neighborhood where everybody waves at each other. Nothing fancy. I worked at a warehouse, pulling shifts, loading trucks. On weekends, I picked up extra hours at a grocery store, just to keep us afloat. Mira worked part-time at a boutique, which let her be home with the kids after school. We weren't rich, but we were okay. We had pizza nights. We had movie rentals. We had each other. Then, a kid in a Ferrari ran a red light and turned my life into rubble. I was driving home from work, regular evening, nothing special. Next thing I knew, metal was screaming, glass was exploding, and my spine was folding in ways spines aren't supposed to fold. The doctors said I was lucky to be alive. I didn't feel lucky. I felt like someone had taken my body and replaced it with a machine that only produced pain. Multiple surgeries, weeks in the hospital, months in rehab, learning to walk again like a toddler. The medical bills piled up like snow in a blizzard. Insurance covered maybe a third. The rest came out of savings we didn't have. Then the credit cards maxed out. Then the collection calls started. I went back to work too soon. I had to. We were losing the house. Every shift was agony. I'd come home, pop painkillers, and collapse on the couch. My daughter would climb into my lap wanting a story, and I'd have to say, "Not tonight, kiddo." My son started acting out, probably because he could feel the tension in the air like smoke. Myra had to go full-time at an office job she hated. She was gone all day, then came home to cook and clean and manage kids while I lay there useless. I saw the resentment building behind her eyes. I heard it in her sighs. I couldn't blame her. I blamed myself. We stopped having date nights, stopped having friends over, stopped having anything except bills and arguments and exhaustion. Then the wedding invitation came. A friend of Myra's was getting married in Florida. 3 days, beachfront, the kind of wedding she used to dream about. She was determined to go. I understood why. She needed a break. She needed to feel normal again. But I couldn't handle both kids alone. My back was shot. My son was a tornado. We couldn't afford a sitter. We fought about it for weeks. Finally, she said her mother would come help. I agreed, relieved. The night before she left, I came home from work wrecked. The house was a disaster. Toys everywhere, dishes in the sink, no dinner. Mira stood by the door with a packed suitcase. "I don't have time to clean," she said. "It's on you." "Where's your mom? Call and check." She walked out. I called her mother. No answer. I made mac and cheese for the kids, bathed them, got them to bed, all while my back screamed at me. No sign of her mother. I called Mira, furious. She screamed back, "Can't you manage one weekend? I've been doing this alone for years." I was too tired to fight. I just hung up. The next morning, her mother texted. She was out of town, never agreed to help. I called Mira again, and she said, "Mom said she'd try. Looks like she couldn't. Just a weekend. Hang in there." I hung up and sat in the dark living room, listening to the hum of the refrigerator, feeling something crack inside me that wasn't my spine. When she came back, she was different, distant, cold. She started coming home late, always with an excuse. Drinks with friends, dinner with coworkers. When I asked for help with the kids, she'd shrug and say, "You got this." I'd get angry, but she was unbothered. She'd stare at me with this icy calm and say, "Can you stop me from living my life?" She knew I couldn't. I'd never laid a hand on her, never would. It was like she was daring me to become someone I wasn't. That's when I knew she was cheating. I didn't want to believe it. 12 years, 2 kids, all the hell we'd been through. But the signs were screaming. The late nights, the way she'd light up at her phone, the way she looked at me like I was furniture. One night I sat her down, kept my voice steady. "I know you're cheating. Just tell me the truth. Let's end this clean. For the kids." She let out a breath, then told me everything. At that wedding in Florida, she'd met the best man, a music producer in his 60s. Rich, connected. He made her feel special, she said, like she mattered. Like she wasn't just some tired wife with a broken husband and a mountain of debt. "I saw the shift in my friend's life after she got that guy," she said. "I thought, why can't I? I'm younger. I'm prettier. He showed interest, so I played along. He makes me feel things you can't anymore." I'd hit record on my phone before the conversation started. I don't know why. Instinct, maybe. Or just the last shred of self-preservation. We talked about the kids. She agreed to joint custody. Then she dropped the bomb. She wanted the house. Her boyfriend could cover the mortgage, she said. I filed for divorce the next week. I was too broke to fight. My lawyer said her boyfriend's money gave her the upper hand. I moved out onto my brother's lumpy couch. For months I watched from a distance as she lived my life. In my house, with my kids, with him. She quit her job, posted photos of fancy dinners and designer bags. Meanwhile, I ate ramen and tried not to fall apart. My back got worse. The stress ate me alive. One day at work, my vision went blurry. Next thing I knew, I woke up in the hospital. Another surgery, more recovery. But this time, something was different. The surgery actually worked. For the first time in years, I could move without wincing. I found a low-cost therapy clinic through a coworker. Started talking about everything. The accident, the betrayal, the guilt. It was like releasing pressure I didn't know I'd been holding. I joined a gym, started slow, walking, stretching, then more. My body started coming back. I threw myself into work, chased that promotion I'd given up on, and I got it. Enough to get off my brother's couch and into my own place. A small apartment with a room for the kids. Then Myra pulled a stunt that floored me. She left the country with her producer boyfriend. Said the kids were getting in the way of her new life. Handed them over like they were luggage. I was happy to have them full-time, but the real kicker came a few weeks later. Remember the kid who hit me? The one in the Ferrari? Turns out my lawyer had been fighting for 3 years to prove it was his fault, not mine. We finally won. The court ordered his family to pay $1.2 million in compensation. It hit my bank account 2 months ago. I'm not buying yachts, but I'm closing on a house with a big backyard, a basketball hoop for my son, a garden for my daughter. The kids are with me full-time. My health is better than it's been in years. Myra found out about the money, of course. The kids spilled it. She tried to sue for a share, claiming she'd suffered too. Her lawyer laughed her out of court. The money came after the divorce. She's entitled to nothing. Turns out her rich boyfriend wasn't so rich, or so faithful. She caught him with other women. He got tired of her and kicked her out. Took back the house he'd paid off. Left her with some designer bags and a ticket back to reality. She's living with her cousin now, working at that same boutique she couldn't wait to quit. She comes by to see the kids sometimes, trying to play the doting mom. I don't stop her. She's their mother. But when she looks at me now, with my straight back and my new house and my kids laughing in the backyard, I see something in her eyes that wasn't there before. Regret, maybe. Or just the slow, dawning realization that the life she threw away was worth more than the one she chased. I don't feel angry anymore. I don't feel much of anything when I look at her. Just distance. Like she's someone I used to know in another life. Calvin stopped talking and looked at me. His eyes were dry, but his voice was heavy. I've been doing this work for 3 decades, and I've learned that people don't come to me for answers. They come because they need someone to witness the weight they've been carrying. Calvin had been carrying his for years. The accident, the pain, the betrayal, the slow, grinding poverty. And then, finally, the strange, unexpected gift of justice. Here's what I want you to understand about his story. Mira didn't leave because Calvin was broken. She left because she was exhausted. And exhaustion, left unchecked, becomes resentment. Resentment becomes justification. And justification becomes permission to do things you never thought you'd do. She convinced herself that she deserved more, that she'd paid her dues, that the marriage was already over in every way that mattered. The affair wasn't the cause of the breakup. It was the symptom of a breakup that had already happened, quietly, over years of unmet needs and unspoken resentments. But here's the thing about running toward something shiny. You don't always see what you're leaving behind until it's too late. Mira chased excitement, validation, a life without struggle. And she got it, for a while. But she also lost the one person who'd stood by her through every struggle. The man who dragged himself to work with a broken back so his family could eat. The father who said, "Not tonight, kiddo," with tears in his eyes, because he couldn't be what he wanted to be. The husband who kept showing up, even when showing up meant collapsing at the end of every day. Calvin didn't get revenge. He got something better. He got his life back. And in the end, that's the only victory that matters. When someone shows you who they are, believe them. When they show you that your pain is an inconvenience, that your struggles are a burden, that your presence is optional, believe them. And then, as hard as it is, let them go. Not because you don't love them, because you love yourself enough to know you deserve better. Calvin deserved better. And in the end, he got it. Not from karma, not from the universe, from himself. From the slow, painful work of putting one foot in front of the other until he was standing on his own again. That's the lesson I carry from his story. That sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is refuse to break. Not for revenge, not for proof, just for yourself. Calvin walks out of my office that day a little lighter. He's got a house to buy and kids to raise and a life to live. And I sit there in the quiet, grateful that I got to witness it. Some stories stay with you. This one always will. If this story stayed with you, don't forget to like and subscribe. There are more like this, and some of them might change the way you see things.